In this video, I'm going to show you how to work with the authentication middleware. So this video assumes that you can create a user successfully and sign that user in successfully. If you can't do that, then make that work first. Okay, so now suppose you run the test suite and you are getting a bunch of 401 errors. You probably will get a bunch of them if you get any. That tends to happen. All these requests are protected by your authentication middleware. And so if something is not working in the authentication middleware, then none of these requests are going to go through. How do you debug this? How do you figure out what's going on? Well, so you might be inclined, as you've been able to do in other cases, to go to the individual request and to click send to send the response, and you will get an authorization required response. And so you could go here and check out what the error message is and try to figure out what the problem is. However, you're not going to be getting valid information from that. And the reason is this token right here is generated within the test suite, and it's only going to be more or less guaranteed to be valid if this request is run as a part of the test suite. If it's not run as part of the test suite, it's likely going to always just throw an authorization required error, even if your middleware is working correctly, because the token may not be valid. So what we need to do is we need to do a little legwork. And we can do that by creating a new request, or several new requests actually. And so here I already have a folder that I created to put these requests. And to start with, we need to make a post request. And so type in http://localhost : well, here I can just select it. So there's the sign up. And I'm going to go to the sign up request here and copy the info and go to body, raw, JSON, paste it in. And now give it an email address, password, and name that you will remember. This is what I always use. And grab a link or an avatar. Now we have this request. And oops, I'm going to run it. And you see we get a conflict error because I already have a user of this name, but this email. That's perfectly fine. But what we want to do is we want to make sure that we can that we have a user that we know exists. And I'm just going to save this. Sign up ASDF is what I'll call it. And there we are. We have this request that we can reuse. And it's not relying on anything that's created during the test suite. So we can do something similar for the sign in request. And what I'll do is just copy the body of the sign up request, paste it as the body, remember raw JSON, paste it as the body here, delete the unnecessary fields, and this unnecessary comma. Now I can run the sign in request, and we now have a user that is signed in. And we know who this user is, which can be very useful if in later steps when you're trying to work on deleting a card. You need to know who owns the card. So that's another very good reason to be going through all this. Now we have a token. We have a logged in user. What does that mean we can do? It means we can authenticate requests. So the next thing, well, actually, the next thing I am going to save this. How do I save it? Save it as sign in ASDF. And I'll save it in my custom folder. Okay. Now, next, we'll make another request. Add request. This one will be a GET request. And to users/me. We don't need a body here, but what we do need is to authorize it with a header. And this is just entirely determined by, here we can hide the auto-generated ones. The reason we need to do this is because that's how our authentication middleware is written. You know, we're expecting a bearer token. And so it will be an authorization header. This is the key. The value will need to start with bearer, and then we'll need to, oops, I need to go back and copy the token with no quotes. Copy. And, nope, not there. Here. Paste that in. One space, then paste it. Now we'll send it. All right, now we're getting authorization required, but this is actually a valid result. So it's a little hard to see that, but still it's true. Now we are getting, we know that there's a problem because this user should be authenticated. Whereas in the other case, when I was running it from here, we didn't actually know if the user should have been authenticated or not. So now we know that there is a problem. And this is when we can go back here. And in this case, we're getting the same error, but we would have to figure out what the error is. And in this case, the problem is just that I accidentally had, or intentionally had, an empty string instead of JWT secret. So if I change that, go back here, now the request is going through. But let's try this out. Oh, and this request is going through also, which sort of proves me wrong here. So in this case, I guess you were able to run this request and get a valid result, which is a little surprising to me. But I'm not sure if that would always be the case. There are lots of cases where running these requests as is outside the test suite will result in unreliable responses. And so it's very important to be able to create these requests on your own and replicate the intention behind these requests and the tests that are associated with them.